Hi there, I'm Mary Susie from Bead Me a Story, and today I'm going to show you how to make these charm holders using Green Girl Studio beads as well as some wire. And the wire that I'll be using is mainly from Parawire, but you can get all your wire there. I'll just show you, it's parawire.com. I'll be using a 16 gauge yellow brass, and then for the wrapped portion you can use either a 28 gauge or a 26 gauge wire to do that part. I'll also be using some special tools. This I will be using to wrap the wire around to make our loop at the bottom. And I just want to let you know that this is made to go with one of my chain kits, and this chain kit is called the Center Lock Spiral with demis and tries. So you can actually go to beadmeastory.com and you can buy the kit to make this really gorgeous chain that's going to go with this. And again, this is greengirlstudios.com, and you can also find some of their things on Etsy. So look for Green Girl Studios on Etsy and you'll find some other sellers that sell their pieces as well. But the most important part is that you find their beads that have the hole going from top to bottom to do this with. And then as you can see, we've used wire around it. I'll show you a couple little bead techniques, but mainly you want to go to your bead stash and your charm stash and use what you have to go with whatever type of theme that you decide to work with. You don't have to stick with fish, and I'll just show you this toad up close. This one I have a little wishing well and a little pair of overalls with them, and with the fish I just used a couple starfish. So you can have a lot of fun with this. I intended this to be a mid-length necklace, so the chain that goes with this is about 24 inches. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to need is one of the fat beads from Green Girl Studios. And you can see this is the very first charm that I made in this way. And this is the toad from Green Girl Studios. Okay, you can see how cute he is even on the bottom. Okay, and then I had a little gargoyle. It's not really kind of Halloween time, so I wanted something a little bit more to the season that we're in or going into. So I have this little puffer fish, and this is the one that I'm going to use to show you this project today. Okay, so first things first, this is Parawire yellow brass 16 gauge. You can go to parawire.com to get any of their wire, and it's one of the easiest places to get wire from. Nice website. Good customer service there, all that stuff. Now, I'm going to cut this pretty long. I might give you a measurement on this later, but even though, we only need a couple inches here, I want to leave myself, I need to leave enough for the loop. And I like this to be nice and long because the 16 gauge wire is really thick and hard to bend. So the more room you give yourself, the better, because then that way you've got more to pull on. Now you can see I'm using, these are just hardware store wire cutters. I like to save my little bit nicer ones from this heavier gauge wire because it is really tough. Okay, so now I'm going to show you these. I do carry some of these, not this exact one, but I do carry some of these on my website, and this just helps you straighten out your wire when you start so you don't have any kinks in it. Okay, so you can always run that through. And then what I want to do, I want to go maybe a little bit more than halfway, and I just want to put an initial bend in this because, as you know, if you've ever done a wire loop, you kind of want to bend it, curl it around, and then wrap it around. So I'm just going to give myself a little bend. This is going to help me to keep the wire in place as I coil it, and know, it's not going to go around this this curve. Okay, so I just make a little curve in it. And then this is the simplest form of wire wrapping that we're going to do today. I've got 28 gauge wire. You could very easily use 26 gauge wire as well for this. And the only reason I use the 28 gauge is that's what I had. This was just a cheap spool that I bought from the craft store, maybe a hardware store, but at any rate, you can see that I'm going to pull some out, and this is going to be just really easy. So if you haven't wire wrapped before, this is the very easiest form of it. So I just want to hold it with my finger, and I want to wrap it around a couple times. Right now we're just trying to get it started, okay, so that we can wrap easily. And I'm going to straighten this up a little bit. Okay, so you can see I just have it wrapped around the loop a couple times, and I just want to leave this little end piece of wire so that I can hold it in place while I'm wrapping. But if I want to, I can bring it further down here so it's easier to wrap around. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to wrap around twice, and then I'm going to use my fingers to push that together, and I'm going to wrap around twice. So you'll see why it's easier to hold it down towards the end. Push it together. Make sure your wire stays straight out here, that it doesn't get tangled up. I'm gonna wrap around twice. Squish these up together, okay? And you're just gonna keep squishing. You do the best you can. I'll let you see this one here, what we're doing. So you can see we're gonna have to go like, I don't know, maybe that's like 1.5 inches or so. So, you know, just keep in mind, you're gonna have to go a little ways. So I am going to pause the camera while I do this part, and I will be back when I'm done wrapping this coil around. And, you know, like I said, this is about a little over 1 inch, maybe 1.5 inches that we need to do. Okay, so my coiling is all done now, and I did finally get out a little ruler and realized that that was probably more like 2 inches to 2.25 inches. So if you haven't made that much, go ahead and pause the video again and get yourself to, I think 2.25 inches is probably good to do this with. So anyway, get to about that point. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna cut this off, and I'm gonna try and get that to wrap around. And the same thing with this other end. I want it to wrap around cleanly, so I'm gonna cut that real close. And then I might want to even bring in some pliers and just flatten that out. Okay, so it's really seamless. We're just building a little coil. Here, let me cut this one closer. Just really building a little coil that goes around our wire. And this is just gonna make the whole piece a little bit more attractive, that's all. This is just for looks, for show. There's nothing hard about this, but if you wanna learn wire wrapping, this is kind of beginner lesson number 1, is just coiling around the wire and learning to make your little end pieces nice and neat. Okay. And by wire wrapping, I mean, you know, the wire weaving, where you kind of go in and out between wires. Okay, I'm just gonna keep trying to mash that down. Maybe even see how I'm just moving it around. Just trying to get that flat so it's all curved in. There's no pointy edges sticking out. Same thing down on this end. Okay, just get it all wrapped around, nice and neat. Now, before I slide this down, I did this bend in it for a purpose. And that's because doing this loop down here on the end is a little bit tricky. And when I made this first one, I actually did it with the coil on. So if you kind of mess up what you're doing and need to do that, you can do that very gently. But I would actually prefer to go ahead and do this bare. Okay, so I'm going to start with this big one. And then I'm going to move down to the next smaller one. Okay, just to get a nice curve going for ourselves. Okay, and you can see I can kind of pull that up, see where it's going to go. Okay, I'll slide that back down. Now I want to get a little bit of curve up here in this area. Okay, I want to make my loop as round as I can. But since we're not just like pulling up a wire and wrapping it straight around, you know, this is just kind of a progressive thing. So you want to, you know, just keep smoothing it out. And, you know, like I said, I want to make sure this section stays open so that we can slide that coil down onto it. And we do a little bit of curving on this section. So the more we get this into a nice curve, the easier it's going to be to pull it all together. Okay, so that feels pretty good. And this one might be bigger than the initial one I had. To tell you the truth, I did that one out of order, so you know, my results might be a little bit different here. Okay, and I can push on it a little bit. Okay, but I think I'm pretty happy with this loop that I'm seeing here. Might want a little bit more sharpness up here, but we'll do the loop, and we can, as I said, you know, you're not really probably going to hurt this wire too much, so you can adjust it a little once we get it rolling. So let's go ahead and I'm going to straighten this top wire out, and you see I have this one ready to wrap around. Okay, so I just keep fiddling with it till I'm pretty happy with it. It's never going to be perfect, but let's see. I don't know why I have this little sticker on my pliers, but then you can grab them with your nylon jaw pliers. Okay, and you notice that this meets up real close up at the top. And let's get our small wire out of the way. You can see that's trying to grab on here. Okay, and when you start wrapping, the further out you are, the more power you're going to have to that wrap. But we don't need it super close in here. We just really want to get it an attractive wrap around. So I kind of come in and push with my fingers and then come out here, and then I can use my pliers to keep adjusting this and get it in tighter. Okay, so see how I'm squeezing that in? And since I didn't do the best job of this, I'll tell you what I'm going to do, because this does not have to be a neat wire wrap. So I'm going to take it down below, or well, let's see if I can. Squish these together. Oh, there we go. So just slow going. and it's going to do its own thing. So, you know, just work with what you've got, work with what it's doing. It's not going to be perfect every time. You get better at this as you go along. Okay, and I just want to wrap it around maybe one more time. But you see, when you're using these heavier gauge wires, this gets really tough to do and manipulate the wire and get it tight around here. So you're going to have to use your pliers to kind of squeeze things in. And pull on things and manipulate them and get them in a little bit better shape. Okay, and then this one I'm gonna go ahead and cut this off. Okay, and that's just probably fine. And you know, so we have a little bit more of a swirl at the bottom than I would have liked. As I said, we're going to be able to come in here and manipulate this shape still a little bit. And this has plastic on it, so you know, when I'm not going to break the wire or anything unless I push just way too hard. Okay, let me curve that out. Okay, so that's pretty nice. I'm actually pretty happy with that. Okay, so now what we're gonna do, now I might take this and kind of, I want this flat so that when I put my fish on, I'm gonna use the puffer fish for this. When I put my fish on, hopefully it's sitting flat. And also too, right now you see there's this little end tip of the wire. I wanna make sure that that's in good. But I'm also, so I'm gonna push that in with my pliers, make sure nothing's sticking out. But I'm also, these have huge holes in them. Okay, so I'm gonna use that little nib of wire to kind of hold my puffer fish in place. Okay. All right, so he looks good. And now I will get my round nose pliers and we're gonna make the little loop at the top. Okay, so I have a really nice pair of Xuron pliers, but when I'm doing the tougher wires and stuff, to tell you the truth, I really prefer, you know, just the really cheap ones. These are not really that smooth at all, so they grip onto the wire well, and they'll work really well for something like this. Okay, so my loop would have been bent back this way and brought around this way. So I want to, actually I said that in reverse, let's see. Nope, okay, that'll be fine. So I want to make sure that these are straight with each other. Okay, so I want to be up, sorry, my fish keeps twisting around. So I want to be up from the fish just a little bit. And I want to use one of the really wide parts of these round nose pliers, but I'm leaving myself a little bit in there, you see, so that I have room to wrap around, because again, this is really thick wire. Okay, so I'm gonna push this away from me and start wrapping it around. The other thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna yank back on this, okay, and this is gonna help this, this loop that I'm making to sit directly above the fish. Okay, and then I'm gonna bring my pliers around. So see, now they're grabbing it from the bottom part of the round nose pliers. I'm gonna pull straight, and I might wanna adjust that little pullback that I did, just to make sure it stays in there, okay? And now I'm gonna take my flat nose pliers. I think I want to be on probably the opposite side. And I'm going to start wrapping this around. And see, the further out I'm grabbing the wire, the better it's going to bend for me. And again, we'll adjust this when we get to the end. I know it's kind of twisting a little bit and doing some things we don't want it to do, but basically you want to make sure that you get down to the bead. Even if this section is a little bit longer in here in the wire wrapping than you really wanted it, you want to make positively certain that it's pinning that bead in place, because we're going to be using this wire to kind of hold this in place now. So it's really important that it actually gets down so it touches the bead. Okay, so right in there seems good. And I'm gonna cut this off. Now, after I cut it with these, I might come in with a little bit more precision wire cutter and cut this off. But for now, let's just get it out here and see. These actually really do a nice job of getting in there close. See, that got close enough to where I can tuck that wire in. So that's just fine. And then I'm gonna take my pliers and really mash that up in there. Okay, and now if it's not straight, just make it straight. So see how we've got, you know, here's our loop directly above the fish, and then here's our bottom loop. And this wire, see how it butts up right against the fish? That's going to help keep this from twirling in place. Okay, so that's basically all there is to making this centerpiece. I just wanted to mention a couple things. I'm using brass because I want that contrast against this really dark pewter. So this is silver, but it's got a lot of darkness to it. So by using a contrasting color like copper or brass, it's really going to show up. So if I had used silver or a gunmetal color, this wouldn't pop out quite so much. Okay, so it wouldn't look quite as good. So that's why I wanted to use a color like I did. And then as you can see with this one, just go to your bead stash, find yourself some little charms that you think match your fish, you know, maybe some little starfish or some other smaller fish, or just something that's kind of sea life, and then maybe some pearls. And with these, I just did little wire wraps on a head pin and an eye pin in some cases. Okay, and then I had these little leaves that already had the wire in them, little glass leaves, and I put one of those around. So whatever you have, if you got little coral beads or something like that, this just made like a little charm holder. So now you can attach whatever you want to the bottom of it. Okay, so as I go into the charm section of this, you know, I just kind of go for it. I don't usually have a plan. I just start playing with my beads, adding stuff on, and seeing how it looks. So there's a couple little techniques I wanted to show you that I was making as I did this. The first one is this little piece over here. Okay, and I love berry beads when I'm doing anything having to do with ocean, because it gives you a real ruffly ocean wave kind of thing going on. So you can see that this was just a little eye pin that I put the peanuts on, and I used bronze and purple because those are the colors of our chain. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start curling this into a loop. Okay, and I want it to come around, and it's going to need to hook around this part underneath the ball. Okay, it has to be underneath the ball or it doesn't have anything to latch onto. So, and that actually, come to think of it, something else I can do. I just thought of this. I didn't do it with mine. But something else I could probably do is give this little ball on the end a little bend so that it's easier to hook onto. Okay, and then this part I'm gonna I don't want to close it yet, because I'm going to need to put it around my charm holder first, and then I'm going to try and hook that. Hook that into the little bend that I just created. Okay. And then somehow I need to use my pliers to kind of wrap this around below the ball, probably twice. And this part's tricky. Tell you the truth, this is going to be hard to do on camera, and I hope you can kind of see what I'm doing. But see how I'm just pulling that around so the wire gets twisted around itself? And I'll keep pulling that tight. This is really small gauge wire, so that helps a lot. And being able to wrap this around and make it tight. So it's not so much loopy anymore, but it doesn't really matter. We just want a really nice, you know, kind of abstract little form. So you can see I have one up here now, and I have one down here. And then just make sure that there's no wire sticking out. I think I got that all tucked in really well, but make sure there's no wire sticking out. So we just did this one. And of course, when I was not on camera and able to concentrate, this one's a little bit cleaner, but that's fine. That doesn't matter too much. Okay, so there's that little piece with the berry beads, the Miyuki berry beads. And then you can see I love the little teacup beads. They look a little bit like octopus cups. So I'll just show you real quick how I do those. You can do probably at least 10 to go onto one jump ring. So I just have my little teacup on a head pin, and I bend it around. You can go towards you, away from you, and then I'm gonna bend that top part, and I'm gonna bring this up. Okay, get my loop, and these are just quick loops. I just want this part to be real tiny, so I just wrap around quick. And then we're gonna bring in our wire cutters and cut that wire as close as we can get it. I like to pull it up for myself so I can get in there. Okay, and then I usually bring in a really tiny pair of pliers. These are kind of a tweezer size bent nose plier from Xuron, and these are great for doing small stuff. Okay, and tuck that in. Okay, so that's with that. That's with the bronze color, and I put that on gold, and you can see I've got my little purple ones on a gunmetal. Just want to have a variety of the metals, and you want to mix it up in a piece to get that mixed metal effect. And it really works, and it helps it go with all the rest of your jewelry, because then it's gonna pretty much match whatever you got. Okay. And this one's a little bit of an ugly one. See, I went down and I came back up, but that's fine. There's no rules with this, as long as you're making it very small and tight. And again, I'm going to bring in these pliers, make sure that end piece is tucked in really good. Okay, so like I said, you're going to make about 10 of those. And then what I did was I just took, let me get these pliers out of the way. I just took a jump ring, and I went ahead and stuck all of these onto here. Kind of every other color again. You know, I stuck about 10 of them on here, put it around here, and there we go. Okay, so that part's easy. Now the charms. I got out a couple of Starfish charms. Oh, before I go on to that, I do want to mention you could use some little flowers too. And if you use a bunch of them, it's going to give them a different look. It's going to give them that ruffly look like you get with the berry beads. One more thing I want to point out is you'll notice here that I went ahead and used some Novacon on this, which darkened my metal, okay? Because my chain for this is bronze and purple, so I wanted to match the bronze a little bit more. It's still going to be way more gold than the bronze in my beads, but I did darken this one, and you can see the difference if you look at the toad that I did, and you can see that this is darkened a little bit up at the top and down in the curve. Okay, so that's another technique that you can use is, you know, patinaing your wire so that it blends in even better. Okay, and then our charms, to add them in. This guy's a little bit bigger, so I'm going to want him to end up being centered a little bit more. Okay. And then, see, I've already got two little things kind of in the way over on this left-hand side, so when I add this smaller starfish, you know what, I've got these little cups going already. Actually, they're on this jump ring, so how about we go ahead and do the starfish. Now, when I do this, I'm going to make sure, so actually I want those cups to face front, so make sure he's facing forward, and then the cups will be in front of him, so they're more likely to hang a little bit better. Okay, and then I'm gonna wrap this around here and put him up here with those little extras. And then when you start looking at it, you know, just see if you feel like is it filled up? Do I want a little bit more? I probably want a little bit of something up here. I want to build up a little bit higher, but you can see you just keep adding to it. The other option for me is that I can, like, let's say I want something to dangle down from here. That's fine. I've got a little jump ring in there. I can attach a jump ring or a head pin and have something dangle down a little bit further off of one of these that I already created. So just use your imagination, just start working it, just start adding to it, and amazing things will happen, and it'll look really cute. And I think you'll enjoy this process because it's just fun. You can use up extra beads, you can you know, really experiment with some things, and there really are no wrong moves that you can make. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed this. Please be sure to like and follow me on YouTube, and don't forget that this is the chain for this is a kit, which you can purchase at beadmeastore.com. Thanks so much.